Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Nursing Uncharted. I always say this, that I'm so excited for an episode, but I really am excited because these guys were one of my first people I found organically, and they're willing to come back and share an update with everyone about where they are now and exciting new products. But I'm so grateful that, we've been able to formulate this relationship and you guys are willing to come back and, have this episode with me again. So welcome back, the creators of Uni Shoes.
Thanks so much for having us back.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Good. Well, I'm really happy. And like I said, I kind of take a little bit of credit because I really found you guys organically on Instagram 2 years ago. Maybe it was like right when you guys got started. And I was just so happy you're willing to come on here, give me a chance, give AMN a chance. And I'm excited that you guys are back here today. So maybe for someone who hasn't listened to the first episode, just kind of give a rundown of who you are. And then we can kind of dive into what Uni is. So Loftin, if you want to start, introduce yourself.
For sure. I'm Loftin Dortch. I am a registered nurse and co-founder of Uni Shoes, which we'll talk about here in just a minute.
Yeah, and then I'm Alex Pastorkovich, also a registered nurse. I'm no longer at the bedside, but the other co-founder of Uni. Sort of got my career started in like emergency medicine, transferred into like functional medicine, concierge medicine, and now here making shoes.
I love it. Alex, I forgot that you got into functional medicine. I'm so into that right now. And I feel like that's like I hate to say trend because it's not, but it's just a different direction in what healthcare is. And I think it's so exciting to talk about that. So we may have to circle back and have a conversation about that at some point because I really just developed a really big curiosity and, excitement for that line of healthcare. So, okay. So basically, I want to recap what really got you guys to develop a shoe line? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so Alex and I were both working in the hospital, and shoes were one of the biggest things that we had issues with. We would wear lots of running shoes, or Alex was a big sneakerhead. He loved wearing like Jordans and stuff. But of course, those are not very comfortable when you're in them for 12 hours at a time. And then I wore running shoes, but constantly spilling stuff on them, blood, urine, feces, whatever. We come in contact with the whole realm of bodily fluids. So spilling it on one time, even if it's a brand new pair of shoes, it's going to soak in, it's going to stain. Your shoes are basically ruined. You can throw them in the wash, but they're going to look terrible. So we kept coming back to this over and over of footwear. So Alex and I were both working in the hospital. We connected and we're just kind of talking through some of the pain points that we were experiencing working as nurses and talking about shoes. We both had the same experience. We asked around coworkers and friends, all having the same experience. So we're like, there's this problem that really needs to be solved. And although neither of us knew anything about making shoes, we're like, okay, maybe we should look into this. So that kind of started us off into this journey of figuring out how to make a shoe and to create this sort of high performance footwear that had all the features we needed, but also something that looked good. Because there had been some footwear out there that was for healthcare professionals. Neither of us really wanted to wear it because it focused more on the functionality, less on like the style and look of the shoe. So we wanted to kind of blend both of those together into kind of this high performance shoe that was built specifically for us.
Yeah.
And with like scrubs too, I know a lot of it is hospital specific, but at least for me where I was working, it was like we had the uniform, they provided us scrubs. And so the shoes were kind of like your one area where you can sort of express yourself and have a little variety in like what you're choosing. And so we wanted to really highlight that. Now there's a little bit more with like Figs and all these other brands that have a little more stylish scrubs. And it seems like there's a little bit more flexibility in the workplace on what exactly the styles and everything that you can choose. But, when we were first kicking things off, it seemed like shoes were kind of the only area that you could choose something that was like for you specifically. And so that's where the name kind of comes from too, is like kind of the unique part of a uniform. And so that's why we kind of just blended that hybrid into.
I love that. It's so when you say that, like the footwear being, I might have shared this story the first time, but I was a neonatal transport nurse. And we had to wear, I mean, the flight suits were terrible. Like they were so uncomfortable. They were the worst color. They were blue, but they were like the worst. And so they're like, okay, get like boots. And I got like pink camo boots because I'm like, it's so me. It's just who I am. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, like country, whatever, but this shows a little bit of my personality. And I actually got in trouble. So I wasn't even allowed to wear my pink camo boots. But, it always makes me laugh when you say that because it really, nurses sometimes are limited to expressing who they are and like their personality. So it is nice to be able to express that. And, speaking to your shoes, I own 2 pairs. And the one pair, I think I even messaged you guys when you brought out the pink because it's just me. So it's just really exciting that I now have that pink shoe that I can wear and no one will yell at me now. So, since we last met, there's actually been a lot of development behind the scenes and some of the stuff has, kind of hit the market just recently. So, there's a couple new products. I know there's like you have the backpack and then you have a new shoe as well. So do you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about even the changes that you've maybe made to the original design?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and one thing we really wanted to do, and we really wanted to sort of steer this way is we noticed that there wasn't really any brands focusing on like the actual performance of people in the workplace. And so that's one thing that we really wanted to kind of highlight and dive deeper into. So, I mean, the sort of like the next product or add-on things that would a shoe company would typically put out is like socks, compression socks, little badge pulls. We didn't want to do any of that. There's so much of that out there and it's all sort of the same. And so we really wanted to do something that was sort of within our ethos and our thesis of our brand of like improving the performance of these people in the workplace. And so one of the things that we were really excited about doing was partnering with a company called Kane Footwear. And so they have been growing very rapidly and they're a very prominent force in like the athletic field. So a lot of like MLB and NBA teams, a lot of runners are partnering with them. And they offer a recovery shoe. And so we had thought about, creating our own version of this, but they were already doing it so well. It sort of looks like a Croc, but with like an actual sole on it. So we thought it was like a sort of a cooler version, a recovery shoe or a cooler version of a Croc that we thought, our customer base, nurses in particular would benefit from. So we really wanted to highlight that and have that as an option for people, whether they're going into work, you want to change out of your shoes into these after work, just something to kind of get out of those work shoes. Put your feet in something comfortable and nice that's going to offer, additional recovery benefits to your feet. They're super comfortable, very soft and airy. At least when I was working in the ER, I know nobody wore their shoes in their car even because they're so nasty. Yeah. And so having that option to kind of like change out of these into something else or wear these and then put those nasty things on, or even going to the gym after, we wanted to just have that option available for people. And then Loftin, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the other ones.
Yeah, so we did the recovery shoe collaboration. Then we also put out a backpack, and along the same lines as what Alex was saying, like we didn't want to just make a backpack, put a few pockets in it and like it's good to go. If we're going to make something, we wanted to do it right. And so we added a shoe compartment, which is separate from the rest of the bag. So it goes perfectly with our shoes. Like you can throw your recovery shoes in there. So when you finish work, you take them out of your bag and they're separate. So it's not like it's going to mix in if you've got, your other stuff that you don't want to get dirty. Also, the top of the bag, we've got like 10 pockets. We've got a badge clip. We've got a place for a laptop sleeve, easy access on the outside for a phone pocket or to put your wallet and keys. So it's like every little thing we made was specifically for like nurses and what we do. A lot of people will go to the gym before or after work. So an extra pair of clothes, you can throw it in there, 2 water bottle holders. We just always see like our coworkers coming in with like 3 grocery bags of like their lunch and their clothes or shoes or whatever. So we're like, let's create this bag that literally has storage and a place for everything. And then it also ties back in to our shoes and our brand and kind of creating that performance benefit for consumers. So that's kind of what we did with the bag. So we're super excited about that. It's something it's gone really well. And then we also put out a lunch box that fits into that shoe compartment. So if you want to put your lunch in there, so all these like new things. And then one of the newer things that we did, which we'll touch on briefly, but we came out with an energy drink, and this was kind of one of those things that very out of left field. Like,
yeah,
nobody would ever think that a footwear company would create an energy drink, but it's actually pretty unique and interesting.
I do want to highlight the recovery shoe and the backpack idea. Like that just made me really go back into my last job I had. Like I had to change because I was like going into the OR, and I never was one of those that would change my shoes. But then, I always wore like my flats, like my slides and stuff. And it like, you leave for work and I would put them on and I would notice it's like I didn't know how to walk almost because I was in this shoe that actually was like made to, be worn and like fit my foot and did all the things it was supposed to go into these like horrible, not good for you slides. I would trip all the time. So like this really does speak even to me, like with the, putting on something that is still good for your feet. Like we neglect our feet as nurses horribly. We're on them so much. We go for style over comfort a lot of the times. We go what's on trend a lot of the times. But, even like having that, extra step to like, okay, let's get them like massage your feet almost after work. Like let's get in something that's going to be beneficial to you rather than just getting out of your disgusting shoes and putting on whatever to go home. So I do think that that's a really, really good idea. And you guys are, you're athletes too at the end of the day. And, something that you said, I don't want to take it from you. So maybe one of you can think of what I'm saying, but we're a lot at the gym as well. And like, I love the transition and the overlap that you have between nurses and athletes and how they can be the same person. And the backpack thing, I need to look at that a little bit more because I saw it briefly, but the fact that you've put all of that thought into it, I love that. I love that concept. You're making stuff work for nurses and what nurses actually need. So I didn't want to bypass that without giving my, opinion of all of it. And, I really, really like that idea. So I wanted to highlight that. But I also do like this energy drink idea. And I know we're just going to touch on it, but I do really like this. So Alex, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but I just wanted to highlight that.
No, not at all. And then I guess just to take one step back too is we do want to highlight these nurses and people in this industry as like everyday athletes. And we're trying to do a lot of education around that piece because I don't think that people typically see themselves as that, which is a little unfortunate. But that's one thing is like these people, they're kind of badasses. And so we want to highlight them as that because, on a daily basis, you're walking 4 to 5 miles a day. You're doing all these squats and turns and you're pulling people up in bed. And it's a 12-hour endurance event that, goes far beyond any type of athletic endeavor that is typically lasting somewhere between like 1 to 4 hours. And so these people are getting all of this recovery. They're getting all this performance. They're getting all this technology. And then what we're getting is like a basic plastic sock to put your foot in for 12 hours a day and walk around in and expecting people to perform at their best, both cognitively and physically. And it's just, it's time for a change. And so we're really trying to highlight the importance of like actual performance recovery and the proper care for like what you're doing on a daily basis, because it is a lot. And just the combination of everything that's hitting people like on a cognitive level, emotional level, and then just the physical demand that it takes. So really wanting to highlight these people as like the athletes that they are and provide everything that they should be able to have and almost match like what athletes are getting for them as well.
Right. Right. And I think that that's something that is really special about you guys is it's not like you're like, oh, I had this idea to make a shoe. Cool, let's do it. There's a lot of thought and it comes through. It comes through in these conversations and it comes through in your advertising and, your social media work. Like you really have put a lot of thought and effort into making this for nurses and to like show that this is what we need and this is why it's important. And I really appreciate that about you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits, I think, too, of choosing to go into an industry where we are our customer is that everything we produce, we think it's a pain point we had while we were working in the field. So that's kind of different from other companies where maybe they weren't, in healthcare before, but they're, trying to reach out to the consumer. They're looking at, okay, well, what's something else? What makes sense? Oh, maybe socks make sense, or maybe badge pulls make sense. But for us, it's more of like, that was never a problem or an issue or something we were trying to solve or felt needed solving.
Yes.
So everything we come up with, we're like, oh yeah, we wish we had this, or we wish this was better because we've lived it. We've worked those shifts. We've gone through the motions and the steps that everybody in our field goes through every day. And so that's something I think that is advantageous to us as business owners working, for our customer.
And so some of these products, the energy drink in particular, was sort of the product of both that type of thinking and just having too much time in between developments of shoes. Because creating shoes, making adjustments, and having these like long windows of getting samples, making adjustments, sending them back to the factory, a couple weeks later, getting another sample. There's a lot of downtime in between adjustments. So our brains are just constantly going all the time. And so that was one thing that we came up with the drink. It's called No-Caf, but it's using an ingredient. It's very innovative. It's called paraxanthine. So it's actually a metabolite of caffeine. And so caffeine breaks down to 3 different metabolites. Paraxanthine is the one that gives you all of that, cognitive benefits, the energy, the focus, but it doesn't give you any of the negative side effects. So you don't get any sort of like sleep disturbances. You don't get any jitters. Your heart rate doesn't elevate with that ingredient. And so what we wanted to do was just give our people a healthier alternative to energy drinks, caffeine, Starbucks, Monster, all of those sort of negative energy drinks that we see people chugging on a daily basis. And especially for like night shift, mid shift, late shift workers, I know that was me sort of 2, 3, 4 a.m. needing a little pick me up, needing that like morning cup of coffee, but then you go home at 8 and you're trying to sleep and you can't. And so this was like a great alternative for them, since that half-life is significantly shorter. So 3 to 4 hours, it's kind of wears off and it won't disrupt your sleep at all, but you get some those same alertness and cognitive benefits without any of the negative downsides.
Yeah, I love that. When we first talked about it, I remember the initial conversation. I was like, wait, this is brilliant. Like, I mean, everyone loves caffeine. Like nurses, that's our lifeline. But the fact that we're getting that with, like you said, without those negative side effects is huge. And this just, again, shows that you guys have put a lot of thought into what nurses need without the negative consequences of the things that we need. So finding alternatives it's brilliant. I love the two of you. I think that there's big and more things to come. So I'm glad for this update, and I'm glad that we are, going over these new products. But I do want to also talk about how there's a little bit of I don't know how to word it, but like a design change or a little bit changes with the original design. Is that correct?
Yeah. So with every order, I don't think we've placed an order without making some sort of change to the shoes. So like we'll get them back. We will, like our first design we got back and we're like, this is great. We're ready to launch. We're proud of it. But with every iteration, there's always something, hey, let's adjust a little bit on this. Like, so we finally got to the point where we loved the shoe we have, but we're like, we feel like we can make this better. Like we're always looking at increasing the performance. So a lot of that is decreasing the weight, making it more lightweight, increasing the durability of the shoe. The fabric we had is great, but it's also expensive to produce, and it's hard to produce as well. So not just the price, but it's hard to produce. There's super long lead times. So if you want to place an order, you got to place the order way much further in advance. So we're looking at, for one, just creating a better product, but also making our ordering process simpler so that we don't go out of stock sooner and things like that. So there's all these little things to take into consideration. So with this upgraded shoe, we're going to have an upgraded fabric. It's going to be lighter. The foam is going to be, we're using a different foam right now. This might not mean anything, but we're using EVA right now, and we're going to use this different foam that's called TPEE, and it's just a little lighter. So the compression set is going to be a lot better so that it'll last longer, but it's also going to be softer, but still have that stability, because that's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Running shoes don't have that stability. So we want to make it more stable, but also lighter. And so the fabric is going to be more durable, better fluid resistance, still easy to clean and wipe down. And then also there's going to be a little bit of visual changes, which we're excited about. Right now, originally we just went very very sleek and minimal, which we love. That's kind of Alex and I, our design style anyway. But with this new one, we're going to be able to do some fun things with colors, mixing it up a little bit. It has a more design visually to it. So we're super excited with that. It's been a process to actually get it completed. We've been working on this for a very long time, but hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll have that one released.
Excited. I can't wait. I'm like, you're getting me excited. I can't wait. It'll be my third pair I buy, right? Well, I love that. And, I want to, at the end of this episode, I want to get back to the products and everything. But I do want to talk about something that, Alex, I think it was you that said earlier, is that you leaving the bedside completely. And what that looks like. And, I haven't shared my story on here yet, but I kind of did the same thing. And, I want to talk about a little bit of like the feelings that go into what that is like as a nurse leaving the bedside. It may sound great and exciting, but then I think that we all can agree that there's a little bit of some feeling involved in that. So and I think Loftin, you also have left the bedside completely. Is that correct?
Have, yep.
Yeah. So how, like, what are those feelings? Like, how did that happen? And, what prompted that decision?
Yeah. For me, it was just needing to go all in on this. And I'm typically a 0 or 100 type guy. And so I knew that if I was going to make this work as an actual career, if we were going to get going on this, I sort of had the flexibility to do that too. And so I kind of took the leap first for us. And, there were feelings for sure. Mine was sort of, I guess, I was phasing myself out, going from an ER, then going to this functional medicine clinic, like in a mall, was like a very big change. Working from like a level 1 trauma center into like being next to Zara. It was very different. And then, so it was more of a gradual exit from the field, I guess. But, you watch shows like The Pit and you see different things online, or you talk to different nurses and they're still in there and they're talking about stuff, and it makes you miss it for sure. But there's always, the grass is always sort of greener, or there's always pros and cons and everything. So with this, it's been a great experience. Like, I love nursing. I'll always keep my license. I always have that to fall back on, which is an amazing, thing that I don't think many different industries have. Like, I always know I will have that option. But at the same time, we're still doing something within the nursing field, within the medical field, which still feels great because we're helping support nurses in other ways. So maybe it's not at the bedside, but, there's so many different ways to kind of still be involved. And so it's been a great journey for me, I guess, is exploring this side.
Yeah. So Loftin, yours is more recent. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah. I guess it's actually been a year now. So it was last July that I was able to fully step away from the bedside and just go focus fully on the business. So for a while I was doing, half and half. Then I'd slowly be able to cut back because I was working PRN at my job. So I was just able to kind of slowly work back as we got busier, and then we're able to start paying ourselves little by little. At first, we didn't pay ourselves anything. It's just like everything we made right back into the business. So still a lot of that is what we do, but now we're able to at least pay ourselves a little bit so we can kind of, get by. So I was able to finally fully go away. And yeah, it was one of those things. It was kind of weird because it was what I'd been working for since we started. I knew I wanted, like, this was what I was passionate about. This is what I wanted to do. But then when you finally do take that step and go away, there was almost like this sense of guilt that I had about stepping away from the bedside, especially when you're seeing it in the news all the time, like the strikes that are going on. I think it's in Massachusetts right now. And, it's all about safe staffing. We want better safety for our patients. And so to step away, and it's like, we're like, there's already a shortage of nurses. And now I'm stepping away from the bedside and taking another nurse away from the bedside. So it's almost like a little bit of this guilt. But at the same time, I guess it's all about, I just have to stop and think about perspective, because like Alex said, we are creating something for nurses that we want to help improve, their shifts. We want to create something where they wear these shoes. It helps their shifts, so the people who are working at the bedside, it's kind of like that trickle effect. Hopefully we're contributing just in a different way, which I think you can see. It's not just like us doing business, it's other areas of nursing people go into that maybe aren't the bedside. There's all these different ways to contribute. And also, I think a lot of people who like worked with me and Alex for a few days would be like, I don't want any part of this. Like, it's not like, cool, these guys are just like making shoes and having fun. And it's like, a lot of what we do is
it's hard.
it's hard. We're in it. So for us, it's fun. Like that challenge is fun for us. But like for a lot of people, they'd be like, nah, I don't want any part of that. So it's not like we're just like going and having a party while we're leaving the patients at the bedside. It's all a perspective.
I don't think that anybody thinks that at all, but it's funny that you would bring that up because it, like, you know, you both said there's some guilt that comes along with it, but you're still doing something that helps nurses. And at the end of the day, that's still your passion. You know, you're a nurse at the end of the day, regardless of you were a nurse for 5 years, you're a nurse until you retire. You are still a nurse, you know, and, you know, keeping your degree. And I think one of you said it earlier. I hate the term fall back on, but this is a recent shift for me. So I joined corporate world, but still as a nurse, I still have to be a nurse to be what I'm doing. But leaving that bedside is a huge, like, I've said this to a couple of people and I've gotten mixed responses. I'm like, I almost feel like I lost my identity because I was so proud of what I did. Like, I was just proud of, you know, where I've been and the steps I've made, and like, you know, where I am now is all because of what you know, being a bedside nurse. But, you know, we all grow in our careers, and I will forever be a NICU nurse. That is who I am, and that is like who I will always be. But it's weird when I'll tell people what I did and their first thing was, so you're not a nurse anymore. And I'm like, do you understand how mean that is? Like,
yeah.
Like,
it's like a little knife in the heart.
Yes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But then, you know, and I'll say to my friends, like, what if I fail? Like, what if this doesn't work? And you have your degree, you have your license, you have everything your experience, your education, everything to fall back on to go right back to the bedside. And, you know, I think that is what is so special about a nursing degree. And, you know, that you can do whatever you want. And a nurse, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a business owner, you can be in corporate America, you can do bedside, you can do whatever you want. And you can shift that at any point in your career, which I think is amazing. And, you know, for me, this is like a huge shift. And like the hospital I was working for, I actually had to resign from because of other reasons I won't get into. But, you know, there was like a hiring freeze. So there wasn't the positions, which I hate. I hate the politics of things like that sometimes. But, you know, I was kind of grateful that it happened that way because I don't know how I would make the transition to what I'm doing now while still having the responsibility of fulfilling my per diem requirement. So, you know, I think all things happen for a reason, but, you know, I can really relate to you guys a little bit more because I'm, you know, I've kind of left that. But what I'm doing is, well, I still have to be a nurse and I'm still doing things in the NICU realm, but like just the general population does not view me as a nurse anymore because I'm not in the hospital, which I would love to shift that mindset for people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then something like, you know, obviously this podcast wouldn't be here without AMN, and something that, you know, just for anyone that's listening that is thinking about maybe making a shift, when I'm ready, I'm going to get on Nurse Finders and get a PRN job. And that's something that it offers even more flexibility than a staff PRN position at a hospital, because you can go be there for a couple months. Your requirement is so much less. You know, it all depends on the facility, but there are still options for people to keep that bedside, but also want to explore a different route in the nursing career or in their nursing career. So I think that's just something I wanted to kind of shout out, that even if you guys are like, well, you know, maybe I want to go back and like do a little bedside, you still can. There's always those options to come back to, which I think is great.
Totally. Yeah. Alex and I, we keep our license active, and yeah, you never know when you might need to jump in. Even, you know, you don't want to say it, but like when the pandemic hit and stuff, even I was still working as a nurse, but it's like you can always jump in and help, like if you've got an active license. So there's so many different scenarios where you can still contribute, or you've got options, you know, after. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is great. But, you know, I want to go back to the shoes and back to the partnership that we've actually, from the first episode, you know, of this and you guys coming on, you've now created a partnership with AMN for your products, which I think is great. And, I don't know if one of you want to, say the promo code.
Yeah. So we partnered with AMN. I mean, we love it because you guys deal with our people who we, support. And so AMN 10 is 10% off. You can go to our website and check out the shoes, check out the backpack, check out everything. So we love working with you guys. We've had a great relationship so far. And we just want to keep supporting our friends, our coworkers, and all the people, who work hard in healthcare.
Well, I appreciate you guys a lot, and I've said that multiple times, but I do. I think it's amazing to see, the start of it to like where you are now, and just like how both of you have been able to invest fully in this. It's really inspiring for nurses out there to know that if they're feeling stuck, there's always an opportunity to explore something new and different and exciting. And it's people like you guys that pave that way. I think you remind me, did you guys meet in the hospital?
We met working at an IV infusion clinic for just like maybe 4 hours, one shift, exchanged Instagrams. Yeah, we were, Loftin moved to New York. I was in LA. We probably didn't really talk other than like a few little Instagram reactions every once in a while. And then one day we just had a conversation, wanted to start a business together. And here we are like 5 years later.
Yeah. Like the power of nursing though, like seriously, like that's just like those little like moments in passing basically that you can just run into someone. You're like-minded. You've realized you have the same passion and you're able to create something amazing for nurses for what your passion is, which I think that's super cool. Is there anything else you want to highlight, like about any of the products, or say before we wrap this up?
I think we just want to, again, just highlight the importance and the education behind like having good footwear. Because we're on our feet 12 hours a day. I think it's on average 700 miles. On average, like nurses are walking a year, which is crazy. And so like foot health is extremely important. And so that's why we're really pouring everything into like our tech and our design. We have been working on this one next model of shoes. So that one will be quite different from anything that we've seen before. Hopefully later this year or early next year, but it's been like a 3-year development on that one. But a lot of super exciting technology going into that shoe. Very well thought out, just for everything that we need in the workplace to make something that's very high performance, fitting the foot shape properly, allowing the proper ventilation with the proper fluid resistance in the right spaces. So everything is like very meticulously detailed. The stability, but also the comfort. And so we're super excited about that. Again, it's been like such a long, grueling process of going back and forth for years and years. And we just want to get it out, but it's not quite right yet. And so I think for anybody that's, been a fan of the brand or is new to the brand, there is like a limited color option. And style options available, which is frustrating for us as well. But we're definitely working as hard as we can to improve that and get that out and offer, the highest quality products with like the widest variety of range. Because at the end of the day, again, like that's where people are expressing themselves. We want them to have that optionality of whatever they're choosing. But in order to do that, it's expensive, and we're just running this by ourselves. So we're doing the best we can to get it out, but it'll be worth it for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. But also, I don't mean to like call you guys out, but I did stalk your Instagram before we got on here, and I see that you're training for something that's big that's coming up. And did that have any influence on these new designs that are coming out?
For sure, yeah. Alex and I we're running the Tahoe 100-mile ultramarathon. Let's see, next Saturday. So not this coming Saturday.
I was going to say, it was soon. You said the date and I was like, wait, we're recording. Like what?
Yeah. So we're coming right up to it. So we both run ultramarathons before, but this will be our first one running it together. But yeah, 100%, it's definitely influenced how we approach building our shoes and our product, because we're constantly trying like different running shoes and looking at like the tech and feeling the like shoes. Just you think like, oh, it's built for running, but it's like every shoe is different, and there are things we like about certain shoes and don't like about other shoes. So we've definitely taken that. We see the performance and the time and the effort that companies are putting into creating this performance footwear specifically for running. And so we do that exact same thing, but are now focusing that towards what we do in the hospital for work. So the movements we perform, having something lightweight, making sure it's durable and the materials are made specifically for what we need. And so every aspect of that we put into our product and our shoes. And so it's just kind of fun. Like you can just look, if you look at our brand, like you're looking at me and Alex, like we literally just, it's our lives and what we like, just everything that we go through and experience, and we put.
And you can tell. And like I said, I stalked your Instagram, and I'm just like, it's literally like I know you guys, and like I don't, other than through these calls, but you really do put your heart and soul into what you're doing, and you can see it, and I just love that overlap of the nurses, and I'm sorry if I say it wrong, but like nurses are everyday athletes, like that is, it's so true, and you guys are both like you guys both have a passion for like athletics and nursing, and just putting that together, and you came up with some wonderful products. So I'm so excited. And that promo code again is AMN10 for 10% off. So don't forget that. And I just wish you both the best of luck in these new products. Thank you guys so much for coming on here again. I really appreciate you both, and I'm proud of you, and I'm so excited to see these new products that are coming out.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for tuning in to Nursing Uncharted. You can learn more about this episode and our show on our website at amnhealthcare.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find show updates and nursing opportunities on our Instagram at AMN Nurse. Special thanks to AMN Healthcare for making this show possible.